Okay, we are live. Just waiting for all the guys to show up. Can you all hear me good?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
Yeah. I don't know why my oh there I am.
There you
Hi.
are. Hi, Bill.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 31 of Fright Lounge, the show in which the best horrorologists in town will discuss horror in depth for the seasoned viewer, as well as those who are kind of thinking about getting into horror movies and horror media. I am Rigor, of course, from the podcast Then Is Now and the Cult Movie Lounge and the East Meets the West. And joining me, as always, are my co-hosts. We've got Bill Van Ryn from Groovy Doom, my kill, of course, and the Prince Regent, of I almost said of rock and roll, the Prince Regent of electronic dance music, Dantes Alexander.
Hey, hey,
Welcome,
hey,
guys.
guys.
Hey,
I'm
thank
excited
you.
to be
Glad to
here
be here.
on
Awesome.
this
Awesome.
on this most fraptious Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know what's up with Facebook people, and I apologize for those who
Yeah.
tuned into Facebook, but hopefully you read my message there. I last week when my kill, as you can attest, when we tried to get going live, it took us like 15, 20 minutes before we were live, and even then it was only on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah,
And
we had all kinds of issues.
I use this app called Restream, which I pay for, and I'm supposed to be able to stream live on, a certain amount of platforms, and I have YouTube and Facebook. And it was working fine up until Michael and I went to record last week, and I don't know what the fuck's wrong with it. And I'm just so
Oh,
busy. I apologize in advance, folks. By the way, I'm super tired because I've just been trying to get this house in order for Thanksgiving and work my two jobs. But anyways,
Thanksgiving.
yes, today we are doing part two of our 2024 Thanksgiving Spectacular. Last week, Michael and I we discussed the 2008 film Thanksgiving. And I know Bill, obviously you and Dantes weren't available to talk about it, but did you guys both watch the movie?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah.
Cool. What'd you think?
Definitely did. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather, so you have to bear with me.
That's okay.
It was absolutely insane. I had seen it before, but like I only watched little bits and pieces. I think like clips I saw on YouTube. So this was my first sit down with Thanksgiving.
Nice. Nice.
Cuckoo Nutso.
It was very
Dantes,
good.
what'd you think of it?
You know, anytime you can open a movie with a topless pilgrim, you know you're in for a ride. And boy, was I in for a ride. I thought the turkey was disgusting, and yeah, it was so bad it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael and I think our general consensus was that it gets an A for effort. I thought they did a good job. I almost wonder if the acting was done the way it was done on purpose because
But
they knew
I
they were in a comedy.
I will say one of my favorite parts of the film was the dog peeing on like the grave. That was such a nod to like Freddy to me. I just thought that
Yeah.
was so cool. I was like, even though this movie's pretty shitty, like the fact that this dog is like over here like pissing hellfire, like I love it.
And the turkey was believable, even though it was a puppet. After a few minutes, I forgot that it was a puppet. It was like watching a Muppet movie, they're actual characters.
That's how I felt too.
Yeah, and I think I said this last time, but he reminded me of Freddy Krueger in a way because he made a lot of he had the similar voice and he made a lot of wisecracks
Yeah,
and when he was killing people and stuff. So I was like, oh, it's just like a Freddy Krueger turkey.
that's funny.
I
Yeah.
never thought about it like that.
Hmm.
Freddy
Wow,
Turkey.
my my association that I made.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, folks. So that was Thanksgiving. Now tonight, the rest of the movies that we are going to cover is Thanksgiving from 2023, Pilgrim from 2019, Blood Freak from 1972, and Dr. X from 1932. So first up, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving from 2023, and I will give you a synopsis. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, That's an understatement. A mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. I don't know if it's infamous, but all right. I want to do first impressions, but I want to go first because I really wanted you guys to see this. I saw this in the theater and I loved it. I just wanted you guys to see it so bad. You know, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, and there are some criticisms that can be laid against the last maybe two-thirds of the film, but the first insanity of the first third blew me away. I love movies that are batshit crazy, and I found this movie very enjoyable. Dantes?
I think it was I don't want to sound like the Paul Abdul of today, but
Why not?
Why
I
not?
mean, I'm still in the fall harvest mood. That's like my way of encompassing of getting away with like still being on Halloween mode, even though it's Thanksgiving. It's just saying the harvest season because
Mhm.
I love everything that can be subversive and like everything that like we have watched like for tonight is not only like batshit crazy, but it subverts like all of the traditional holiday, ideas about what, Thanksgiving is, and it fucks with the tradition. So I'm game and I love the fact that well, someone's got to do it, right? I'm just being honest because we hear these same stories over and over and over since since we were kids, the turkey, the turkey, was brought to the table because of our relationship with pilgrims or blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'm ranting now, but like these, like, I'm not gonna lie, like these were all first time watches for me.
So
So
what was your first impression of Thanksgiving?
I thought it was batshit crazy. I thought it was batshit crazy, and I thought actually something like that could really fucking happen. I mean, because when you think about all of the chaos that happens, like especially like think about like when iPhones and shit first came out, right? Like how people would like fucking be outside for 24 hours just like waiting in line on Black Friday just to get that shit. And I'm sure there are lots of stories where people have fucking gotten trampled to death, just because they're trying to get the latest toy, for their kid.
Hmm.
So for me, that was actually a little scary because like I remember being in Target in like Circuit City. Am I dating myself by saying Circuit City, fellas?
Yes.
No.
You are, and it kills me that you think that's old.
Yes.
It just
Circuit
makes me
City.
think of in Boston, they had Filene's Basement would have these sales and like bridal gown sales, and women would like literally almost the same thing as the opening to this movie. They would just trample everybody in their path.
And then like I love the Thanksgiving parade. I like the blending, like the hiding in plain sight aspect of that. Like I mean, and especially like if you think about like these holiday parades, they're filled with like so much joy and everyone's merry and it's the perfect place for a fucking serial killer. I mean,
Yeah.
because you're hiding in plain sight. So okay, I don't like I said, I don't want to be Paul Abdul tonight, but just based on like the creativity of the fucking kills, like I'm gonna have to give this an A+ tonight. Like they totally own that camera.
Cool.
That's
Mike,
really what this movie is about, I guess, is the murders, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, why don't you give us your first impression?
I loved it. I'm just like you. I saw it. It was not at all what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I went into it not knowing how you could turn Thanksgiving into a horror movie, but um, it was just great. Just the level of violence and some of the kills, like when he throws the pitchfork when she's running out of the house and he throws the pitchfork and nails her in the back with it. That was so great, and I just thought it was. I agree with you. I think the first like two-thirds of it is the strongest. It's a little, endings can be hard to do, but even the ending I thought was good. Was pretty good. I loved it. I just loved it. So
Cool.
yeah.
Bill?
It's okay. It's not. It's not really my thing.
Ugh.
Um, Well, just because I really dislike Eli Roth's films. I
Oh,
don't know
Oh, I
why.
didn't know that's who it was by.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something about Eli Roth that annoys me. And he's always really interested in grossing people out and
Boy, did he.
providing the most graphic violence that he can possibly show. And the only movie that I thought was really great of his was Cabin Fever.
That was
And
really good.
Yes.
That was
yeah, like that was really original. And at least, sort of original, I guess. It's been done before, but what hasn't? And I don't know. There's just he's got this like frat boy element to him that's really kind of annoying to me. But
well,
whatever.
look, once a film bro, always a film bro.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah. Other than that, my prejudice against Eli Roth, it's okay. It was just a little It was obviously meant to be over the top with the murders, and it was meant to be, or it should have been, a satire of the slasher subgenre, because it's been, for a long time slashers were out of fashion, like
Mhm.
after the mid 80s. Like you really didn't see a lot of slashers until Scream
Yeah.
happened, and then all of a sudden slashers were cool again. And even though there
Yeah.
were slashers in between there and Scream, but Scream just popularized it again. And Thanksgiving seems like based on the Scream kind of slasher, but what it really wants to be is an 80s slasher, like, from 1980. So I thought that was a little uncomfortable, the way that they sort of presented the murders in the film. Sorry.
Uncomfortable how? Like you were creeping you out or
No, no, no. It wasn't that. Even though the murders really are very gruesome, and it's kind of like you don't want to look. I thought the worst was when the lady got killed in the oven.
yeah.
Oh God, yeah. That was brutal.
Put her in the oven. Uh, but yeah, there's something silly to it too. So it did have that spoofy element to it. That the obviously this originated from a fake trailer in the movie Grindhouse.
Right.
Oh, I
And
didn't know that.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Remember the fake trailers?
yeah,
One of them, Machete, got made into a movie, and then this
Yeah.
one.
this is the second one to be made
Yeah.
into a movie. Now they have to make Don't,
I know.
and
I
that
want to see that.
and
Oh
that
gosh.
werewolf woman of the SS.
and the Fu Manchu with Nicolas Cage.
Oh, I don't remember that one. See, there
Werewolf
are
women
many
of the
movies that
SS.
still have to be made from Grindhouse.
I
So
thought you were gonna say something to the effect of Nicolas Cage's movies are so forgettable.
I love Nicolas Cage. But he's a story for another day. So yeah, the mob scene was just insanely awesome. And I definitely want, like, the first time I saw it in the theater, I just walked out and I loved it. But then watching it again this time, I was like, the last two-thirds devolved sort of into a slasher film. Maybe I wasn't expecting that. I was kind of, I don't know what I, like Mike Kill, you said, I didn't know what I was expecting. I love going into movies when I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
but I
agree.
almost thought that maybe there was going to be like a year later, another department store massacre, only this time 10 times worse, And
Mm.
instead it went in the slasher route. So I was kind of like, I was thrown, but I still loved it. Like you said, all the kills were
Yeah.
great.
I
Yeah, I
liked
thought
the
they were
John
really
Carver
cool.
masks. They were very like
Yes.
blank expression, and there's that part where he puts the mask on top of the oven for a second, and it gets melted and distorted when he puts it back on. And I was like, oh, that's just cool, like that
Yeah.
they're creating their own, signature kind of bag. But then he replaces it for another one after that.
Right. So,
But yeah, the woman in the oven, that was really scary for her to wake up
oh my God.
as she's being cooked,
Oh,
in the oven. And that was like, oh no, no, no. The least you could
yeah.
do is like sedate her so she's out cold, but nope.
Well, that's the whole point. He wanted to torture
He
them.
had to suffer.
Yeah, he wanted her to suffer. It was her idea to have the store open on Thanksgiving.
And what's funny is the reveal of the killer, like they kind of pointed towards this young kid or he's a young guy. Um, but it's too obvious that it was him. And I remember the first time watching it, going, I could not figure out. In fact, this time I had forgotten who the killer was. What do we think of? I'm going to reveal it now. So, folks, if you haven't seen Thanksgiving, pause this and go watch it now. It's on. What's it
Yeah,
on?
spoilers.
It's on Netflix, I think. But the killer turns out to be Patrick Dempsey's character, who is the sheriff, which was a nice twist because I didn't expect that. You know, you'd think he's the sheriff, but what do we think of Patrick Dempsey as a homicidal, axe wielding homicidal maniac?
Eh, just as good as any other actor, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little at the end. It was a little like when he came out and with the after she realized it was him, and she ran out of the building, and he came out with holding the axe and said whatever her name was. He called her name, and then he said, "This Thanksgiving there will be no leftovers." And I was like, "All right, that line's a little corny. That's a
That
little
was in the trailer.
there'll be no leftovers." Like, okay. And then she repeats the line back to him.
The only thing I think that sort of has been like done to death, I think, in this film is probably like the whole, like, I'm gonna, target, like, all of the people like connected to it, and I'm gonna hunt down. It just sort of reminded me of like all of those like films like I liked growing up, like in the 90s, like Scream, and like Bill just said. What's that other one? God.
I know what you did last summer.
It's so many of them. Was that the one where what's the one where like Loretta Devine, which I laugh so fucking hard now thinking about it, where she was the fucking security guard? And I'm like, there's no way in hell Loretta Devine.
Oh, I know exactly. I can see
I
her, and I
can't.
don't know what movie that's
I don't
from.
know what Urban Legends.
Yes, thank you. There you
Urban
go.
Legends, yes.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and
Her
so
hero was Pam Grier as Coffee, I
yes,
think.
yes. But I just thought that was like just sort of I just thought that was just a little cliche, a little bit. I felt like it was just sort of following like those traditional tropes and shit. Maybe that was like the bro factor that Bill was talking.
I think it's all cliche. That's why I'm just kind of about movies like this because these things have been done so many times. And like you asked about Patrick Dempsey as the maniac, it doesn't matter who the maniac is. The maniac is going to come from left field, and you're not going to be able to guess who it is. At least you shouldn't be able to guess if they did their
Right.
job because you're
Right.
supposed to be taken by surprise. It's the whole Betsy Palmer thing. Nobody really would have ever thought that Betsy Palmer could be the killer in Friday the 13th because she's a middle-aged woman up against these 18-year-old kids.
Right.
And but you have to just suspend your disbelief a little bit, I guess. And that's what the movie demands of you. Whether you can or can't suspend your disbelief, you have to accept this.
Mm-hmm.
As
You have
much
to
as
accept
Friday the
this person
13th
as the
is
killer.
right, right. As much as Friday the 13th is one of my favorite horror movies, I do have the criticism though that Betsy Palmer doesn't she's not a character in the film until the last act, basically.
Yeah, they
It
don't
was
even
had a
show her.
tension with
Right.
that. I'm like, we should have at least met her once or twice just so that, she could be in the well, I guess maybe they didn't want us to put her in the suspect list.
Well, she wanted to. She told Sean Cunningham, she was like, shouldn't the audience see me at some point in the movie? Like she wanted to be in the diner.
Oh, okay.
She was going to be a character in the background of the diner,
That's funny.
but he said no.
That's weird. All right, hold on. I'm having an issue here. I opened up another web page because I wanted to be head cracked open, piece of scalp ripped off. I was going to just read off some of the killings in that thing, but Dantes, you're absolutely right. You could see that really happening in real life.
Oh yeah, the riot at the store for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, especially like during like the heyday of like the beginning of like all of the cell phone crap and like Xboxes and PlayStations and shit and Jordans. Like, guys, like you remember that stuff. Like people would be lined up for hours just trying to get the latest Jordans or whatever the latest fucking gadget or doohickey is, Tickle Me Elmo or whatever the fuck.
Cabbage
Or
Patch
you
Kid.
know, or what was that shit in the Teletubbies? Like people were getting killed for that, you know.
In the
I
Cabbage
really
Patch
hate
Kid.
that. I hate Black Friday. I hate the idea of going somewhere at 4:30 in the morning and standing out in the cold until the doors open. I don't know why people do it.
It's
Right.
I really,
consumerism to the max.
So
it's
stupid.
gross. I was for one season I worked retail
I knew you
for
hated it.
Christmas. I mean, it was okay. It was a really hard job, but I liked doing it. The worst thing about it though was that we opened at I think 5 in the morning
Oh my
on
God.
Black Friday or some crazy time, and of course I had to be there. And there were all these people lined up. I mean, I didn't expect there to be anybody, and there was a huge crowd. It was like Dawn of the Dead. And there were all these people like standing there ready to go in, and I
Bargain.
worked there, so I walked in to the door and they started freaking out because they're like, no, 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 you get back here. And I'm like, I work here.
Oh God, that's funny.
It was disturbing.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's freaky. So yeah, so final thoughts on Thanksgiving. I'll give mine first, I guess. Just for the opening insanity that we just talked about alone, I think it's worth a viewing. I highly recommend it, especially if you like over the top, outlandish, batshit crazy gore throughout the film. I think it's awesome. Dantes, final thoughts.
Final thoughts are if you like chaotic, batshit crazy, nonsensical shit, this is for you. Did I sum it up good?
Yes.
I can't believe you're saying you're using that term on this movie when later we're going to talk about Blood Freak.
Oh God, I didn't. But you know what? I understand Blood Freak because it's a product of its time. Like, okay, I won't jump too far into that, but
Yeah, let's not
this
Yeah.
get started on that yet.
this movie, I'm gonna give this a hard C. I'm gonna
Ooh.
give it a hard C. I'm gonna give it a hard C because it's a little predictable with, John Carver, hunting down, the group of the high school students and the store owner's family and shit. It's just a little, it's a little, I know what you did last summerish.
Yeah.
I like how the John Carver mask looks like the Guy Fawkes mask from V for Vendetta.
Yeah, it does actually. I forgot to mention that. And if I would have saw this before Halloween, I actually probably would have gotten that mask.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because I liked how it looked. So that's the positive about this movie is that it's a hard C. The mask is a good A. So weighted score is we're still we're like a good B. Good B.
Could be. Excellent. Excellent. Michael, final thoughts on Thanksgiving.
I loved it the first time I saw it, and I loved watching it the second time, and I'll probably watch it again in the future. So yeah, I thought it was great. I definitely recommend it if you're into horror.
That's awesome. Bill.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't want to give it a bad grade because it's not a bad movie, just because I didn't like it. But or I didn't even not like
Give it
it.
a weighted grade.
Okay, so like I guess I would have to give it a B.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I loved it, but don't get me wrong. It's no A plus. It's definitely a B in there.
I don't
Yeah.
know what would be an A plus at this point, though. I mean, like so many great slasher movies have been made. Like, could you even make a better slasher movie than even as recently? I guess Scream is the most recent landmark. So
Yeah,
I don't
I don't
know.
know. That's a good question.
that
It'd
is
be
a
very
good
hard
question.
because everything's been done so much.
Right, right.
You'd have to like kill someone, resurrect them, kill them again, resurrect them.
I hate that. I really hate that. That's the worst part about Thanksgiving, I will say, is it leaves that open end for the sequel, which is of course
Yeah.
required in a
Right.
slasher movie.
Yeah.
And for once, I just want to see like the villain is dead, irrevocably dead, like at the end of Halloween H20 when she cuts off Michael Myers' head with an axe. I'm like,
Should have been
okay,
it.
yeah, like that's what I want to see. I don't want to see like, oh, he might come back. Just irritated. You hate this person now because he's murdered half the cast, and you're like, you want to see this person punished.
Well, but when they in traditional slashers, and we're getting a little too far off here, but I'll be quick. When they make these teenage characters assholes, and you can't stand them, you're rooting for
Yeah.
Jason to go slice and dice, you know,
That's true.
they're horrible. But certain movies, the characters are pretty good. So, all right, let's move on to the next film. It's Pilgrim from 2019, which actually was part of what was it? Into the Darkness, Michael. I discovered. It was
Yes, you were talking about that last time.
Yeah, it was. I didn't realize it until doing research on it for this show. Is that it was on Hulu, which is where I saw it, and then it's actually an episode in a series, and each episode is a movie, self-contained, has nothing to do with any of the others. But anyway, so this movie, Pilgrim, is the synopsis. In a unique twist on Thanksgiving festivities, a wealthy socialite hires historical reenactors to create an authentic experience for her family and friends. The reenactors, portraying pilgrims and Indians, arrive at the secluded estate. Wait, were there Indians in that? I don't know. We'll talk about it. Ready to immerse everyone in a living history lesson. But as the evening unfolds, the actors' commitment to their roles becomes disturbingly intense, leading to a surreal and dangerous situation. As the line between performance and reality fades, the hosts and their guests find themselves trapped in a chilling scenario, questioning their safety and sanity. So, first impressions, Dantes, go.
Well, when I first saw this, it almost reminded me of like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to um like the panic and like strategy rooms and stuff, like people like we're paying for this type of shit now, which is so funny, right? Because people want to have immersive experiences now. Like people are willing to pay for shit like this. So when I
Yeah.
first saw that, I was like, oh man, I was like, I don't know, But then when I put it on, and when I saw like the pilgrims, like the actors or whatever, I was like, man, it was sort of giving me goosebumps because when I went to an escape room, which was like last month, like I swear to God, I didn't know if these people were really acting or if they were just fucking batshit crazy because they would not let us out of there. And in situations like this, it's like it's almost like you're a part of a game, but you don't like in the midst of it, it does not feel like a game. So I thought it was cool. I had not seen this. This was my first time seeing this, and I have not heard of the Into the Dark series at all. So this was like you guys will have to like fill me in on that like after after this. But what I did enjoy about the film, because like I am such a history like buff, I did like all of the historically accurate punishments.
Yes.
I loved all of that shit. I was like, oh God, yeah. I was like, are they gonna boil him in oil next? First time seeing it, I enjoyed it. Scary, sort of, kind of, but more or less, I think it was like a commentary. I think like on like our relationship with. Unfortunately, it was a commentary on our relationship with we can't say Indians now because that's not the politically correct term.
Oops.
Um, you
Native Americans,
Thank you. I was indigenous peoples.
indigenous
Yes,
people.
there we go.
Yes.
Okay.
And I thought that was cool. But overall, would this be something that I would watch again? Probably not. So, just because I felt like it was like being in a panic room for me.
Nice.
Like,
Michael.
I'm lame. This is the only one that I didn't see. I didn't watch this one.
No.
I saw all the others, but not this one.
gas.
So
I thought I was gonna have to be the first one to say that, and it was you.
yeah, it
What? You
was
guys
me.
didn't watch it?
No.
No, I thought this was one of the ones you guys watched last week or talked about last week, and
Oh.
and so I didn't watch it.
Okay, well, Rigor, can you explain the Into the Dark series to me?
I don't know anything about it. I literally just learned it when I was looking to researching the film. Well, I was trying to find it. I had on online, like on Hulu, it comes right up if you type in Pilgrim, but online it was really hard to find it, and it came up as a subtitle of Into the Darkness or whatever. Let me see if I have it written. Might be just Into the Dark, and
Or almost
that's
like
it.
the others, almost kind of too. Like
Yeah,
it was sort of like it, 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 it was like, yeah, that's how I sort of feel about that film. It was like the others. It was kind of it like the twist was climactic. You didn't really like you knew it was coming, but you didn't really know it was coming. Um, so yeah, I will say that you guys should watch it though.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're not gonna spoil it because you definitely should see it.
You guys
It's
really should.
basically what the premise said. It's these people have these reenactors come over, but they seem to really believe that they're these characters from history, and it just gets crazy, but like a
Mm.
different kind of batshit
It's like
crazy.
a psychological,
Yeah,
it's not like your traditional like slasher film. It's actually probably really different from all of the other ones that we've watched tonight because it's more
and
it's scary, but a lot of it has to do, with psychology and like how you guys can't see my fingers, but how the actors are, how seriously they're taking their roles. And the reason why it's scary too is because you think about all these goddamn Renaissance fairs and shit that are so fucking popular now, and can't you just see yourself going to some Renaissance fair and getting all dressed up and shit, and the next thing some man's calling your wife a wench and you're being hauled off as a slave.
It could happen.
It
I,
can.
I think what happened for me for the first time I caught it was the wife and I went and saw Thanksgiving last year, and when we came home, we were looking for something else to watch, and this happened to be on, so we watched it, and it's really good. It's disturbing. Yeah, it's not really horror per se. Some horrific things do happen in it, actually.
Yes. Yes, they do. I'm so sad that you guys didn't see it.
I'm
Yeah, you
sorry.
should check it out. It's
Yeah, I'm lame. I didn't hunt enough for it. Roger told me that it was on Hulu, and I just was like, shit, I forgot my Hulu password, and
no.
I went and I watched Blood Freak or whatever the hell it was called, and
Blood
Oh yeah,
freak.
then
yeah.
I took a break from looking for the other movies. Kind of anyway. Is that what it's called?
Blood Freak? Yeah.
Blood
Yeah, Blood
Freak is the
Freak.
next
Blood
one. Yeah,
freak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
was the other one. Yeah, yeah.
So, all right. So let's give our final thoughts on the Pilgrim. So I'll go first. I think as a Thanksgiving horror completist, you probably should see it because there aren't a whole heck of a lot of Thanksgiving horror movies out there. But yeah, it's definitely entertaining. It's definitely disturbing, and it's a thriller. So yeah, I recommend at least seeing it once. Dantes.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree with everything you said. Like this is definitely one of those films that you should watch and should definitely put on your Thanksgiving horror playlist just because of the cultural commentary on our relationship with romanticizing fucking shit from the past that wasn't necessarily always the truth, like Renaissance fairs, like even though all of that stuff is, oh my fair lady and all of this shit. Yes, there's a lot of fair ladies, but there were a lot of wenches cleaning the toilet bowls, if you get my point. So for me, this is like a plus two because it is like a psychological horror. I am big on films that really try hard to fuck your mind first and then try and sneak a big scare in. And so for me, that all happened here. So I'm gonna say this is definitely a watch for Thanksgiving for sure.
Nice, nice. All right,
I'm
up
gonna give
next.
it a good A.
Excellent, excellent. Up next, we've got Blood Freak from 1972.
Now
The
this is weird.
synopsis is a biker gets a job at a turkey farm and agrees to act as a guinea pig for some chemicals that need testing. Failing, Wait, hold on. This read wrong. Failing to anticipate the murder. All right. So he basically took these chemicals. He agreed to take them, and he didn't anticipate the murderous side effects. I
To
don't know
say the
why.
least.
So yeah, Bill, why don't you give us your first impression on this movie? This was one of your picks.
Oh, was it?
Oh, absolutely. This is right up my alley. So I don't know. It's not even fair for me to say I like it because of course I'm gonna like it. It was made for about $2. It's from 1972, and there's a villain with a turkey head running around killing people and drinking their blood. It's gotta be the blood of a dope fiend too,
God,
because there's a whole
that's
drug element to it.
oh,
So and there's a strange evangelical message woven into this movie too, because there's it's all about swingers and bikers and hippies, and then all of a sudden there's this Christian girl in a mini skirt, and she's like looking all sexy, and she's like, I want to read my Bible now. I'm like, huh? That's not like any evangelical I ever knew. And I grew up in that culture, so I'm like, this is totally not congruous with anybody that I knew that wanted to read the Bible. uh, but it's just one of the bizarre aspects of this movie. It's totally my jam.
Nice, Michael.
I am the complete opposite of I fucking hated this movie. Like I don't think I could hate it more. First of all, it was very, very difficult to hear what the actors were saying in the different scenes. And maybe that was because they had such a low budget and blah blah blah. But I mean, just like that was frustrating in itself. And then the story, if you can call it a story, the pacing, the acting, the lighting, the everything, it I could not have hated it more, and it just made no sense. And I kind of got the only thing that I appreciated was the special effect when the guy got his leg cut off.
Yes.
The guy got his leg cut off and he
that
was
was
like
your
writhing
highlight,
around on the
Michael.
table. It actually looked like it was his leg, and I was like, oh, I wonder how they did that. But other than that, it was so bad. The mask and the whole the turkey little turkey sound effects that you hear in the radio commercials, corny times, the tomato juice blood, and you couldn't even tell that he was drinking the blood. You had to like infer it from your own because the guy probably was blind wearing that mask. And
Yeah, and it
oh my
didn't have an
God,
articulated mouth either, so it was just
no,
sort of
Oh
like,
God, that's so
this
funny.
was this beak, and it just like I didn't like it.
I didn't realize he was drinking the blood. I thought he was just like rubbing it on his face or something.
Oh
Yeah,
God,
no,
that's so funny.
he had to drink the blood of drug addicts because he
Oh
was an addict
God,
too.
probably won't be ready for my commentary.
Well, why don't you go ahead, Dantes?
Oh
go ahead, Dantes.
God, can I just be honest? This movie felt so fucking paranoid. Like everything was so fucking paranoid. It was like a time capsule for me. I'm like, okay, so we gotta, so now we have, look, so we have our serial killer, of course, who I'm talking about because he was the biggest serial killer of the era. So we have him. So he's our antagonist for the film. Oh, and to make matters worse, right, we need the blood of a fucking dope fiend, right? This sounds like some Richard Nixon shit here. It just like it just really
Hmm.
it really does. Um it just felt like I understood it though, but it was still sort of I didn't feel like they were making a horror movie. I felt like they were making like almost like a capsule. Like whoever directed this film was like one of the most paranoid motherfuckers in history. They must have done a lot of fucking cocaine, a lot of fucking cocaine because,
Oh
you know,
man.
I mean, I'm just saying, like the narration, like, do I have to talk about the
Oh,
narration?
that guy, the
Oh my
narrator, holy
god.
Like,
shit.
Isn't
like
that
That was
bizarre?
That was
hysterical. That
whack.
was
I
so
mean,
random.
exactly. Now you understand why I say they did a lot of fucking cocaine
That
because
was so random.
it was so random. And it just, like, yeah. So for me, this is gonna be like, I'm gonna give it a D, fellas.
Oh.
I'm gonna give it a D. And the only reason why I'm gonna give it a D is because I can't tell is if they did this on purpose or if this was an accident.
That's funny. So I wanted to say that I saw this at the drive-in in 72 because as you may recall, I saw Asylum and I remembered that and some of the scenes rang a bell with me. But then when I looked it up, it wasn't playing in Boston, at least as far as I could tell from the newspaper ads. And even if my parents did take me to see it, I can imagine what would have happened is my mother would have been like, "Wait, is this guy turning into a turkey? Oh, that's too far fetched. No, I can't take this. Let's go home." So they would have left anyway. But I had trouble following it. I didn't get a lot of the plot. I ended up watching it twice because I don't know, maybe I was distracted or something the first time through. But even then I didn't really even get the dope fiend blood until you just said it, Bill. So
Yeah, me neither. I thought he was
You
just
guys
going
didn't
after
actually
whoever.
watch it. You didn't get sucked into the story.
I watched it. I just, I thought he was just killing anybody he came across. I didn't realize
I
that he
feel
was
like
only
you've
killing.
got to be a film addict or a very perverse motherfucker to watch this film.
Guilty.
what
Like,
was the
I was
whole
gonna say, we're all pretty fucking. We've all got our kinks on this thing here, man.
see what I was getting out of it was there was this whole thing about like he didn't smoke. Which by the way, the guy that Herschel is the main character is played by Steve Hawks, who he played Tarzan in a few Spanish Tarzan movies. But I thought I thought he got addicted to the marijuana because he didn't smoke, but then the girl basically called him chicken shit, so he did. And then I thought all of a sudden he got addicted to it, and then they injected him with the chemical. I don't know. I was having a hard time trying to figure out what was going on.
He was immediately addicted to it.
Okay.
But it was because he was still addicted to marijuana after he became the turkey monster. He had to have the blood of people who
Oh.
were, I don't know. I guess the implication is that marijuana was the same thing as all the pills they were eating.
But
Which
see,
I don't.
that's that 70s classic, like, paranoid, don't do dope, like, don't
Yeah,
touch the lemons, don't do this, don't do that. It's just so Nixon era for me, and I can't get with it. It's everything that was wrong about blaxploitation films put in a fucking horror film with a turkey.
because I mean it's real easy to get hooked on pills, but weed. I mean, you would.
Look,
It's not
hey guys, look,
typical
look,
that somebody else.
Yeah.
look, I smoke so much weed. If that was the case, that I would need the blood of a million dope fiends.
Yeah,
But
Good
you
Lord.
didn't eat the turkey with the special chemicals in it though, because that's what really transforms it.
In fact, my honey just came in now from picking up a big brick. So
I'm coming over your house.
come on over, guys. I'll make a, but look, I'll make the best weed cake you've ever had.
So there's some trivia I wanted to talk about with this guy Steve Hawks, who was the main character, who was doing. He looked like Elvis. He had Elvis hair.
I remember
Yes.
But I guess on July 13th in 2004, his pet tiger Bobo escaped from his compound in Loxahatchee, Florida, and was shot and killed the next day by Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission officer, bringing national media attention to the incident. Hawks believes the officer murdered Bobo unnecessarily.
Oh wow.
Because he worked on a bunch, like you said, a bunch of Tarzan movies, and
Yeah,
that's how he
Yeah, I was
became,
just gonna say, yeah.
a fan of the big animals, the big cats. And so he was sort of like the Lion King,
right.
and Tippi Hedren and her family too.
That's fun. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, he had two tigers and a leopard removed from his property due to lack of a federal permit to have such pets in his town. But I guess years later, when he was asked about this movie, Blood,
Oh God, what did
Blood
he say?
Freak, I almost want to say Blood Feud. I don't know why. I'm like, no, that's not it. He called it a sad chapter in my life.
Oh, come
Oh
on
wow.
now.
Because he co-directed and co-wrote it too.
Well,
So I
you
don't know.
can't regret your work. You
What a
should,
great life you've had. If you would
yeah,
could
totally.
consider this movie a sad chapter in your life. Maybe
And
he
the
was
fact that we're
joking.
still talking about it, like, fucking what, 50, what, 52 years later? Like, I
Right?
mean,
Yeah.
It
it's
hasn't gone
made its
away.
impact. Yeah, it's made its impact for sure.
So my kill, I think it was you that brought up the guy that got his leg cut off by the table saw.
Yeah.
It turned out the actor was an amputee, so they were
Ah,
able to do that.
That's why it
That's
Oh,
looks
why.
so
well,
good.
that's how they were
That's
able
why
to
it
do
looks
that
so good.
special effect. It's the
Which
practical.
I didn't go back and double check, but I thought, I thought he was walking right before it without a limp. But am I wrong?
I thought he was.
Yeah, they establish him, as you would think that he had two legs for the
Yeah.
gag to work, but yeah, he was
Okay.
an amputee.
They
Which,
presented him as a normal guy with two legs. Yeah.
right, right.
Brad Grinter was a filmmaker from Florida. He shared the directorial chair with Steve Hawks. They both directed different parts of this movie, and Brad Grinter was a nudist who I think he either owned a nudist colony or uh, he obviously belonged to one, being a nudist, but I think he had something to do in business wise with a nudist colony. And a couple years after Blood Freak, he made this movie called Barely Proper, which was like a nudie musical. And he was a really interesting guy. He made Flesh Feast, which was a movie
Oh,
from
okay.
1970, starring Veronica Lake. It was Veronica Lake's last film, and in Flesh Feast, she played this mad scientist who was raising maggots. That like she had this like intensive experiment going with maggots, and the whole reason was they were going to bring Hitler back to life, and she wanted to put maggots on Hitler's face and have his face eaten by maggots. That was her motivation for bringing Hitler back to life, so she could torture him with maggots. That was Veronica Lake's last film. If you think Blood Freak is bad, you should see Flesh Feast.
Oh God. I can't imagine.
That's hilarious.
Flesh Feast.
Of course,
I
I
guess.
love both movies. I'm waiting for the restoration of Flesh Feast. One of these days, we'll get it.
Oh, probably.
Oh God.
The what was I going to say? Hold on, I lost my place here. The movie's cast was made up of acting students from Brad Grinter's class, so that's a great way to get a cast. And the main character Herschel was named after, of course, Gore director Herschel Gordon Lewis. Did Wizard of Gore and 2000 Maniacs and all those classics.
I don't know if
Um,
we mentioned this was an X-rated movie.
oh, was
This,
it? No, I didn't know.
Really?
yeah, this was rated X when it was released, and this was 72. That was the year of Deep Throat, the film, and it was sort of a new, interesting way that motion pictures could have gone for X-rated movies to be considered just another viable rating, because before they were just pornography.
Right.
But
And I
along
remember
comes
that in the
something like
80s was a huge fight because people were like, no, I made a horror movie, not a porn movie.
Right, yeah. They were almost neck and neck at one point, though. Like a lot of people thought if you were a horror actress or a horror actor, it was just as bad as being a porn actor or a porn actress.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, when NC-17 came along, no, why can't I not see this? When NC-17 came along, it was because the X rating, they wouldn't advertise in the movie, like Reanimator, I think they wouldn't advertise it in the newspapers. And so it got released unrated.
Well, that was the reason Dawn of the Dead didn't want to do an X rating, because
Right.
your film wouldn't even get booked in a lot of theaters because it had the X rating, and that was so closely associated with porn. And Dawn was the end of the 70s, 1979, by the time it was released in the States.
Yeah.
And look at this beautiful ad. This was one of the only places that Blood Freak played, at the Yucca Drive-In. And I found maybe like 7 or 8 other instances of it playing in the United States in 73 and 74. But the Yucca was just one of them.
What's Body Shop? I have never heard of that one.
The Body Shop is a mad scientist movie. It was also known as Dr. Gore. And there was a third title as well. Oh, Anitra, the Perfect Woman.
Oh, okay.
It was called that in some cities, but it's a doctor is recreating his wife out of other people's body parts to create the perfect woman. It's the Body Shop.
It
As
actually
one,
says right there, rated X, but not for sex,
Yeah.
that's
but
funny.
for something else. Yeah.
So this was sort of groundbreaking, even though it was obviously it wasn't a big hit, and it wasn't like everybody was going to see Blood Freak and the Body Shop. So,
Right.
you know, but it's just cool that at that time this was uncharted territory, like putting a movie out and it's rated X and it's not porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was from the Clovis News Journal from 73, August 7th. Bill, where did you say? Is that where you said this movie played?
The Yucca Drive-In, I think, was in New Mexico,
Oh, okay.
somewhere in New Mexico.
I don't know where the Clovis Journal is. I'll have to look that up. So we've got another one here. Same thing. I guess it was released. Yeah, Blood Freak and Body Shop. It was like
Mm-hmm.
double bill across the board. This
Well,
is from the Johnson City Press from 74.
the Body Shop had actually been released the year before Blood Freak came out, because Blood Freak, even though it's dated 72, it never played theatrically until 73. I don't know why that IMDb lists it. You never really know with IMDb. Those dates
Right.
are often meaningless.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, the Body Shop played these theaters once, and then like maybe 6 months to a year later, Blood Freak was added to it, and they were sort of like a package deal for a hot minute. And then you
Yeah.
saw them like playing with they were swinging with other movies, they would appear with other movies in public.
Right, right. Now, the specter of Edgar Allan Poe, I've never heard of, but The Beast Must Die, of course, is Peter Cushing werewolf movie. What's the specter of Edgar Allan Poe?
Hmm.
Um, it's not an Edgar Allan Poe story. It's a movie about Edgar Allan Poe's ghost. I'm not real sure if I've seen it. It's one of those things I can't remember if I ever saw it because it
Right.
was so long ago. I have to catch up with the specter of Edgar Allan Poe again sometime.
There you go. And here is from the News and Observer from June 5th, 1973. Rudy Selma, the filthiest show. Keep it up.
Keep it up.
And what's next here? So that looks like Drive In. Okay. This is from the Times
Yeah.
Democrat. I'm not sure where that is. August of 73. Same thing. Blood Feast and Body Shop. That was all I could find, really.
That guy screaming in the ad is from a triple bill called The Orgy of the Living Dead
Oh yeah.
from
Right.
1973. And
Wow.
his face was like one of the ads that they ran, and they claimed that they named him, and they said he now lives in a mental institution because he saw these three movies.
Oh my
He,
God. Well, that'll definitely get people to come see the movie. I know that'll make me be like, holy cow, I gotta check that shit out.
That reminds me. I was hearing things of people saying that like they were getting up and leaving Terrifier 3, and people were puking in the audience, and I think that happened in the first and second one too. But I watched the first two. I thought they were really good. Have any of you guys seen them?
I haven't
yeah,
seen any
I
of
haven't
them.
seen them, no.
I
I've seen them.
didn't want to see it. Did you like them, Bill?
No.
No.
I just like the guy that plays Art the Clown. He's like really good. It's like,
Yeah. Art's a great character in a bunch of shitty movies, as far as I'm concerned.
all right. So, anyways, let's get back to the Blood Freak. All right. So let's see. What was up with the 20-minute turkey eating scene? Do we really
I
need to
know.
eat turkey for that long?
I know. I couldn't understand why it was going on and on and on and on. And then you can hear the turkeys like nearby in the pen, like making all kinds of noise while he's sitting there eating the cooked turkey.
Right.
It almost
We-
reminded me of like one of those scenes from Family Guy where they just cut to something that has nothing to do with the film and just let it go on for 20 minutes, and you're like, and Peter's like, Wait a minute. He's almost at it.
1972 must have been the year for that because another movie from 72 has an extended eating scene like that. The Folks at Red Wolf Inn.
Oh yeah, you've talked about that. I haven't seen that yet.
It's a cannibalism film from 1972. Predates Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's not
Yeah.
anywhere near as gruesome. There's this extended eating scene in it though, where people are just stuffing their faces with all this shit, and like later you realize, oh, it's human remains that they're eating. They don't know it.
Mm.
Ugh.
It's a great movie. You all should check it out. You know who's in it? Margaret Avery from The Color Purple,
Oh,
Oh
really?
who
geez.
played Shug Avery.
Oh, God.
She's one of the girls staying at the mansion, and Janet Wood, another familiar face to exploitation film fans anyway. But for a disturbing eating scene, Blood Freak is right up there. It's
Ugh.
just gross. It goes on and on.
Yeah. I guess the film's original financier backed out during production, and it left the director Grinter and Hawks to just kind of basically use their own money to finish the movie.
Oh,
So,
wow. Well, that explains so much. There's no passion.
Yeah.
There's no passion. They, I can't believe, I just couldn't believe that the blood was just so obviously like Campbell's tomato soup.
Yeah.
The sound was a big problem too, like Michael said. There were a lot of scenes where you just couldn't hear what they were saying. So, they probably didn't have much to work with in terms of equipment,
And it's so
obviously.
crazy when you look up this film and you realize that that was what $25,000 produced back then.
Hmm.
And that was probably very state of the art with everything that they were doing at the time. And it just goes to show you like how difficult it was to create like these films, and all of these films now are more important, more so now than ever, because it sort of shows, or there's a roadmap that can be followed back to for like independent creators to say like, okay, like if this project was done with 25K in 1972, which would be the equivalent of $50,000 now, like let's see if we can, do you even think realistically that, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that
Mm.
everybody has the same skill level, but I'm just saying, like, even to just make a film on that scale today would still be relatively hard for it to even just be that bad. Like, it would have to be really hard. So,
Yeah.
kudos to kudos to these guys for like being the forerunners to like all of this independent shit that we have today. So,
nice, nice. Michael, final thoughts.
I just hated it. I hated everything about it. Everything about it. I like it was like, how people joke like when they hate a movie, like, oh, I'll never get that time back, like that I spent watching the movie. That's like exactly, I was thinking that while I was watching it. I was like, is this ever gonna go anywhere? But I stuck with it. I stuck with it. I watched it until the end, but uh yeah, I just couldn't, I just can't find anything redeeming about it. I mean, the only thing is that the events did progress in a linear fashion. That's the only
Hmm.
thing that I can say about it.
It's a movie.
The movie.
Phil.
Oh, did you say me?
Yes.
Um, Obviously, I love it. I think it's like Dantes said, like the fact that this movie even exists is kind of crazy that they managed to get this onto a screen. It actually
yeah.
played in theaters,
Oh my
uh,
God.
and people were confronted with a guy with a turkey head, when they went to see it. And surely they weren't expecting that, and yet there it was on the screen.
But can I add one more thing too?
Yeah.
Like, I think their intent more than anything with this film, because they clearly knew that the means were limited to deliver the concept that they wanted. So they really drove home like the paranoia and the total feeling of that time. I wasn't around then, but like, that was like when, America was like coming to grips with like, fucking heroin and, and all of that shit. Vietnam War, was going on at the time, and there was just like this big sense of like paranoia, and like for the first time, like people not fucking trusting their government and shit. So like this film for me, like that's what they're really trying to talk about. They're saying like, you take your ass over there, you go and fight, boy, for this fucking country, and you're gonna bring your ass back here. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but for me, I look at it like it is an art film. Like it's a bad one, but it's an art film.
That's funny. Yeah, I thought this movie had shades of Ray Dennis Steckler. It was just kind of like similar to the kind of movies he made. Would it be interesting to see if he had made this movie? It would have been cool. I don't know if I would recommend it to anyone but hardcore horror fans. It's totally
Or
whack,
very perverse.
perverse, it's whacked, it's trippy. I think it was obviously intended to be that way. Like you guys have said, it was sort of a anti-drug message movie. And I think Steve Hawks does a great job with his Elvis hairdo. So on that level, I think it's worth watching. It's definitely though. Go ahead. What were you
the bizarre religious element too is very much like a Ron Ormond film, who was another independent regional filmmaker who made religious movies that were often shown like in churches. But they all had this strange. His first movie was about a stripper and a gorilla. It was I said it's called The Exotic Ones. But then every movie he had like some kind of near death experience and became a born again Christian and started making like these movies with a religious element. And that's what Blood Freak kind of reminds me of. It's like they saw a Ron Ormond movie and said, well, we could do that. Like, but we're going to make an X-rated religious theme movie that's going to have lots of blood and people getting their throats slit in it. That's going to be it. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
And was he doing the gobble gobble too? It was. I know that other things were doing that, but I swear every time he was about to make a kill, you heard.
I think, yeah.
It's too
That
fast.
just upped the cheese factor for me because that's the same sound effect that you hear on the radio when they're doing radio commercials around Thanksgiving time. Come down to Bob's Warehouse and you pick up we're having a big sale on our don't be a turkey, don't miss out on the sale. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're using the same fucking sound effect. They sound so it's like this, not scary at all.
That's hilarious. All right, so we've got that was Blood Freak from 1972. We've got one more film. Do we want to take a quick break or do we want to just dive into the last movie?
It's up to you guys.
I'm good. I could go for one more.
We can blast through the last one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
And we all watched it, right?
Yes.
Did you guys both watch it down there?
I watched it today, in fact.
This was a Bill pick. So I don't know. I didn't really, maybe I missed it. I didn't really see the Thanksgiving in it. But and I had in my notes, so Bill couldn't be here to discuss it, what it was his pick.
Well, wait a minute though. There was no Thanksgiving connection. It was just we were talking about someone brought it up and I was like, oh, I love Dr. X. But I didn't choose it because there was a Thanksgiving element.
Oh, okay. All right. So the premise is basically a wisecracking New York reporter intrudes on a research scientist's quest to unmask the Moon Killer. I'll go first on this one. I saw this so long ago. I remember seeing it on TV that I'd forgotten most of it. I actually remember. I did remember that Lionel Atwell was in it. I love him. He's always good. But I think I remember the sequel, The Return of Dr. X, more because it had Humphrey Bogart in it. Which, if you recall, the iconic image is he's got the white skunk stripe through his hair.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I watched this again. In fact, I think I watched this one a couple times because I really enjoyed it, and I think I was distracted the first couple times I watched it. But yeah, very well done in Technicolor, which that was news to me. I always thought 1939 Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind were the first color films, but this was in Technicolor, but it was two color Technicolor, so it looks almost like it's been colorized. So we'll continue on with that. Bill, what is your first impression of this? When did you first see it?
I just saw it earlier this year. It was a movie that totally got away from me. And I did know about The Return of Dr. X, which is a sequel in name only. There are no
Right.
characters that carry over, and it was just basically a title I think they were bouncing off of. But I never saw Dr. X until recently, and I was just blown away by it. I couldn't believe how good it was. Um, you know, the whole look of it is just stunning. I love old dark house movies
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
one thing, and here was one that I had never seen before. And not only that, the old dark house was really strange. Like it looked like a steampunk designer got in there and like put all these tubes and shit everywhere that like you don't even really know what they did. I'm sorry, I keep coughing whenever I
It's okay.
talk for two. It's that's my trigger that I'm talking too long. So one of you guys talk now.
That's funny. Well,
Okay.
let's see. We before we continue, we had a comment from Frank who said, "No wonder I couldn't unlock the mystery of how Dr. X was a Thanksgiving movie." LOL.
You
Um,
never know what you're going to get on this show.
right, exactly.
Yeah, that's so true.
All right, Michael, you're up next. First
Uh,
time viewing, and what'd you think?
yeah, I just saw it for the first time today. I'd never heard of it before. And I liked it. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought um the main guy there, the lead who played the reporter, was fun to watch, and I thought that the movie did a good job of mixing together funny bits and scary bits, and yeah, I thought it was great. I liked it a lot, and I really liked a lot of the visual style. There were a lot of
Yeah.
silhouettes and cool shadows and things that were artfully done, I think, in some of the shots, and I thought it was good. I liked it a lot.
Nice, Dantes.
I actually am a big fan of films like this. This actually sort of reminded me of a movie that I recently watched like the original Nightmare Alley. And I love like films that sort of, I don't know if this can be classified as film noir or not, but I really was actually surprised with like the technical level of the special effects for the time. I know that sounds like such a nerdy thing to say, but I mean, well, come on guys, like we're in 2024, so actually sitting there trying to figure out like how the fuck did they do this at night, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I thought the makeup skills were absolutely like impeccable. Masks were amazing, costumes were amazing. I love the detail that was put into all of the sets. So for me, I don't know why this was actually picked for Thanksgiving. I don't know why they like I don't, but
Well,
but
Bill explained it was just he didn't wasn't picking it for Thanksgiving. He was just picking it.
and I see why, because it's just a visually fucking stunning film. Um,
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, this is definitely something that I would recommend watching in line. Like if you love Metropolis, if any of our viewers out there have seen Metropolis or any of those films like that, this is one of those films that you definitely have to sit down and watch, like with some popcorn, and maybe throw on some other Universal monster films behind it.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of came out around the same time as like Mad Love and Beast with Five Fingers, and
I mean, it was beautiful.
you know,
Like and I know this is a horror film, but I mean, and maybe that's why it actually got chosen to be preserved, I would imagine, is because it is so beautifully done. Like and and I looked it up like after I watched it, and the budget for the film was, I mean, it made like 554,000 and they spent like 225,000, which was a lot of fucking money back then. So these guys were hoping and aiming to make a film that was gonna stand, the test of time, even if they didn't know where special effects and things like that were headed. They wanted to make sure that they gave something and contributed something to the ethos that would last. And the only reason why we're still talking about this shit now is because of all of that detail that we've all talked
right, right. So let's dive into the cast a little bit here. Of course, we've got Lionel Atwill, who plays Dr. Jerry Xavier. He's the mad scientist.
about.
He's one of my favorites. I used to get him confused actually with Sir Cedric Hardwicke because I think they bear a striking resemblance. But Atwill's been in tons of Universal horror films. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula. You've seen him. You might remember him actually as the guy in Bride of Frankenstein. He was the police chief who had the wooden arm and he had to keep moving it. And it was spoofed in Young Frankenstein, where they had the guy that had the arm and but like ridiculous things would happen. Um, then we of course got Fay Ray, who played Joanne Xavier, his daughter. She was most famous, of course, for being the lead in King Kong.
I thought
She
she
was
looked
also,
familiar.
yeah, she was also in another one of my favorites, Most Dangerous Game. She's really good in that movie, and Mystery of the Wax Museum. And those three movies, I think, have a really good pacing. At least the first two, King Kong and Most Dangerous Game. The pacing for its
Right.
time is fast.
Mystery of the Wax Museum is just amazing too. If you love Dr. X, then definitely see that one. That's the
Yeah.
original film that House of Wax was a remake of. And
That
it's
shit was
also,
awful.
yeah. What's that?
That remake was awful.
No, no,
You
no.
think
We're
that
talking
one
about
with
the
Paris
Vincent
Hilton?
Price one.
No, yeah, the
Oh.
Vincent Price one from the 50s.
Oh
was,
God. Okay. Yeah. Whew.
but no, this was the year after Dr. X. It was Fay Ray and Lionel Atwill were both in Mystery of the Wax Museum, and it's also in two color Technicolor. It looks a lot like Dr. X.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
You mentioned about the restoration of Dr. X too, and that was for a long time. There were black and white prints that were shipped to most theaters in when it was released. It
To the
wasn't
poor
every theater.
theaters.
Yeah, like it was only the big cities that got the two color Technicolor version of it. There was a black and white version that I think they filmed at the same time
Yes. Yeah.
because there were strict rules about it. They wanted it. They I guess you weren't allowed to bring a black and white camera on the set. I don't know whether that was just a promotional gimmick or what, but it
Hmm.
was they were hyping like the Technicolor process, you know. But there was a black and white version of it that was sent to TV. So that's the one you saw on TV, the black and white. The color version was thought to be lost for a long time. And then when Jack Warner died, they discovered a copy of it in his collection. So it was sent to, like, I think the UCLA film department restored it. George Lucas is credited on it too. Like a donation made by George Lucas paid for this to be restored. And
Oh yeah.
such a good thing that they did because it's just a real gem.
I think I posted the link for this. It's on our Bill. You shared it for initially. It's on
Yeah.
archive.org. And when I went, I'm like, oh, it's on archive.org. I didn't have the link handy. I'm like, I'll just look it up. And I was watching, it wasn't it. I'm like, wait a minute, something's not right here. And it took me, I ended up going back to the link you sent me. For some reason, just the search did not yield this version of this movie. There were other movies, so it was weird, but it made it seem like it was this movie.
Yeah. Somebody put the wrong synopsis down for the file that they uploaded, which
Yeah.
was a movie that was retitled The Return of Dr. X,
Right.
about a
That was-
man-eating Venus flytrap.
Oh, that's right. So we had Lee Tracy. He plays, ironically, Lee Taylor. He's the Daily World reporter in this movie. I thought he was great in this as a leading man. He's been in a ton of classic movies and TV shows. He added that 1930s and 40s kind of flair, of an action, fast talking. Not really. He's not a gumshoe, but you know what I mean. Like one of those fast talking characters that isn't afraid to get his knuckles dirtied and fighting bad guys and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got Preston Foster, who plays Dr. Wells, at the Academy of Surgical Research. He was in a lot of classic films like Kansas City Confidential and Last Days of Pompeii, a bunch of those movies. And John Ray, who apparently is no relation to Fay Ray, played Dr. Haynes, also at the Academy of Surgical Research. So yeah, Technicolor 1932, which I was shocked. For some reason I think I forget. My brain I think has it. No, Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind were the first color movies ever, and it's like no. In fact, didn't they even hand color some films too?
Yeah, I forget what that was colored by hand, but it was a new process for Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind. I mean, that was, the full color garish Technicolor. This was just like a very limited two
Oh,
color
that's true.
process.
Yeah, yeah. Still, it looked good, and this was a pre-code movie too. It was made before the
Yeah.
motion picture production code because they talk about murder, rape,
Yeah, there's a lot
cannibalism,
in there.
prostitution.
Like, holy cow.
You couldn't say a lot of that stuff after, 1933.
33, yeah. Because I guess Mystery of the Wax Museum got dealt with that. But like you said, it also did the two color process. I love the sets. I love huge sets.
Yeah.
Like where Atwell's library is, like you get a nosebleed climbing the ladder to get your book.
Yeah.
She walks in and she sees him. She's like, ah. Like, what did you
Yeah.
think he was
Screamed at
doing?
everything.
I know. He screamed at everything, and they were like, yeah, go back to bed.
Right.
She's
Like
such a
every
nervous
scene.
girl.
Yeah, go back to bed. You're fine. Go back to bed.
She had a strangely intimate relationship with her father too. She was like
Yeah,
touching his face and everything. I'm like, ooh. They
yeah.
were kissing, like they leaned in for a kiss, and like she turned her head at the last second, so he kissed her here. Like, this is
That's right.
creepy.
It was weird. But yeah, I think the film looks great. I think it was it like you said, the restoration really did it justice. And there was something else I was going to say about it too, and because I didn't have it in my notes, so I forgot what it was. But yeah, this is like sort of like what you said, Dantes. This is kind of like one of those films that like takes you back home. It's the old school, fun, like rainy afternoon kind of movie, like you said, Bill, an old dark film movie, which we should cover the old dark film. I mean, the old
Should.
dark house at some point with Boris Karloff.
Yeah, I think that would be cool.
But I thought that the premise was really interesting too, where they were trying to figure out who the killer was, and then he kept putting them on the his what do you call it? It was like it reminded me of like a it was a what do you call it? It was a lie detector, but it reminded me of something out of the old Fleischer Superman cartoons, it's like
Mm.
zzz, 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 you're pulling the lever and they're like, in the chair.
I don't know where he was coming from with that. There was a blood test in the thing too to decide who was the killer
Right,
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mm.
many years later.
right,
Dr.
right.
X was so ahead of its time. And you know what was weird was I couldn't understand what the doctor was doing. Like the villain was putting that shit on his face and like it turned into Dr. X there. I'm like, okay, so you have a bunch of shit on your face. Like what does that do for you? Like why is this desirable? Um I didn't understand the connect what the function of the synthetic flesh was, but it was really creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
It,
mean, I understood it for his hand because his hand had, he lost his hand. So I
Yeah.
understood that, like putting that hand on and getting it to move and everything. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he started putting stuff on his face. I'm like, why is he doing
Like you're
that?
still under there. He even put it over his hair.
His hair, yeah.
and he just made himself look horrific. I didn't get it.
And it looked like Quasimodo or something after he was done. And it's like,
Don't I look great?
what was the point of that? Yeah. And then he goes in and he tells them who he is. Like he
Right.
does all that ostensibly to disguise himself, and then he goes in and he tells them who he is.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Who
All right.
knows?
Anything else we want to say about this movie before we move on to our final thoughts? Nope. All right, Bill, why don't you give us your final thoughts on Dr. X from 1932?
4 out of 4 stars. See it immediately, especially since you can watch it for free on Internet Archive. But yeah, don't get lured in by the Venus Flytrap movie. I think I had to put like Dr. X 1932 Fay Ray or something like that. Look
Nice.
around a little bit, you'll find it. It's a must see.
Dantes.
I'm gonna give it a must see too. If you're a fan of classic films, again, like Metropolis or That's my tentpole film for that period, is like Metropolis, and it stands up to that. So if you're a fan of films like that, for sure, or if you're a crazy art student who's looking for some inspiration, you can definitely tune your sights there. It's definitely a must watch for me.
Excellent, excellent, Michael.
I thought it was really great. I thought it was very entertaining. Like I said, it was a good mixture of horror and comedy, and yeah, I thought it was really good. It held my attention and kept me interested. And yeah, the performances are all really good, and yeah, it's very good. I recommend it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was a fun movie. I love the pacing. Pacing was very good. It looked nice. It was well directed, well acted. Quality cast, and a good story to boot. It was
Really
really
good story.
enjoyable. So, yeah, I highly recommend it, folks. As Bill said, it's on archive.org. So, Bill, why don't you tell the folks at home where they can find you online?
groovydoom.etsy.com is where you can purchase the fanzine Drive-In Asylum, and also on YouTube. Check out on my YouTube channel, Groovy Doom. Very consistent.
Excellent. Dantes.
You guys can go find me at Instagram.com/Dantes Alexander or Facebook.com/Dantes Alexander me. And at Spotify, just Dantes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everyone, hope you have a great Thanksgiving this year. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking I might want to skip December this year, only because we're going away at the end of the month, and I've just got 1,000 things I'm still doing around the house here. So we'll probably see you guys in January. Okay.
Cool.
Sound
All
good?
right.
All right, gents.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
So long.
Thanks. See ya.
Yeah, just smile.